Well, we've made it more than halfway through Lent, which is really good news for those of us who just can't wait till Christmas. We're more than half the way through Lent. This is the third Sunday in Lent, and we're more than half the way there. We're about 10 days, right? If my math is right. I don't get paid to do math, yeah? But 25, we're at 15, you carry the 1, right? Okay, so we're almost there. We're getting so close. And we've been walking our way through Lent with this idea, kind of this lens to look at through a theme of long expected. And we talked about last week how this idea of long expected comes directly from one of Charles Wesley's poems that was turned into a hint, "Come thou long expected Jesus." And so we're looking at this theme and thinking about what it means to expect and be long expecting. And we've been talking about what it means to wait and to be patient. And so the first week of Advent, just to kind of review, or for those of you who weren't with us, the first week of Advent we talked about ETA, an estimated time of arrival. What is it? When are we expecting this long-awaited Jesus? And the answer, if you remember, is we don't know, right? I don't know. When are you going to be there? I don't know. It's not helpful, right? But we look at the story of Christmas, and as we prepare through Advent at the story of Christmas, that both then and even now, people weren't really sure, right? That what is happening? When is it going to happen? And you look at the story of Jesus' birth, and very few people, except for those who were made aware of it, were aware of it, right? So people didn't know until kind of it happened, right? And then the shepherds and the Magi and Herod, right? Everybody kind of they hear the rumblings going through town. So we talked about estimated time of arrival and how that relates to not just Christmas. And as we prepare for Christmas, we go through Advent, not just preparing for Christmas, but for Christ's second coming, the second Advent. And so then last week we talked about who are we expecting, because we talked initially about when you're getting ready for company, it's helpful to know when they're coming and who they are, right? And what their expectations are and what the expectations of this event are. And so we talked about who is coming, and just a quick recap, we talked about that a judge is coming and also a peacemaker. That there's going to be judgment, but the judgment comes for the sake of peace and for making things right and good. And we read the passage of Isaiah that the wolf will lie down with the lamb and the lion with the kid, and things that shouldn't happen, right, in our lives are going to happen, and they don't eat each other. Well, obviously the lamb isn't going to eat, right, the bear or whatever, but we know how that goes. And today we're going to be talking about the one who came and the one who is coming, and we're going to ask alongside John the Baptizer, we're going to ask, are you the one? Is this the one? We've been talking about preparing ourselves as we go through Advent. We've been talking about making preparations and what it means to expect, and kind of all the work beforehand that goes into receiving someone as company, receiving someone as guest, receiving someone as expected, right? It's much different if somebody drops by on a surprise visit than if you were expecting them, right? Because if it's me, I've run the vacuum, I've at least hidden all the dishes that are usually piled up in the sink, and we've thrown them very quickly into the dishwasher, and we just pray that they don't open it when we say, oh, don't worry about the dishes, just put them in the sink, we'll do them later, right? Because if they open up the dishwasher, then they'll know. They'll know. And so we talked about how it means that we're getting prepared, but we also need to talk about making ourselves ready. And I think there's a difference. And for me, that difference is it involves with kind of presenting myself, right? We've talked a lot about spatial preparation, preparing the house, but presenting myself. And that, am I ready yet? That's the constant question as we're trying to get out the door. Are you ready? Are you ready? Or as somebody gets here, are you ready for this, right? By raise of hand, let me know if you have ever heard this phrase uttered. And maybe it's been around this time of year, or maybe it's just another time when you were expecting company. I expect you to be on your best behavior. Who's heard that before? Who's heard that, right? And it's usually at least that tone, if not a little more staccato, and I expect, maybe through the teeth, I expect you to be on your best behavior, right? This is serious, because I don't open my mouth and I'm smiling when I say it, right? You're going to be really good, right? And maybe you've even said those words to somebody else, letting them know what your expectations are as you're expecting somebody else. For the writer of James, there is a similar desire for what we're expecting. And that behavior, that way of being on your best behavior is to wait patiently. To wait patiently. Here's a confession, and y'all, if you know me at all, you know this already, but if you don't and you haven't been listening, here it is. My patience level is super, super low. And not just now, right? But just in life. I have very little patience. And if you know me, then you know that. Other people will be like, oh, you're always so chill all the time. You must be the most patient. No, I'm not. This is all a facade, right? Because what I do when I'm waiting, when I really have to wait, I distract myself, right? I use the little glowy window that stays mostly in my pocket, sometimes on my nightstand. I push buttons and it talks to me in text, right? And I use that as a way to distract myself. I think about other things. I sing songs. Whatever I have to do to not have to wait, to really wait, to pay attention to the fact that I am waiting. I distract myself. And I don't think I'm alone in this. I think this is kind of across the board that as a group of people, we are becoming less good at waiting. I look at one of the examples that I see this is at the gas pump. I see it at the gas pump because so many of the gas stations now have these screens on the pump that as soon as you pull the pump, right, the nozzle from it, it starts talking to you and giving you a commercial, and sometimes it plays sports highlights that I kind of forget while I'm there. I'm starting to watch the game, just holding it, right? And they start talking to you and giving you commercials or showing you a funny clip from one of the late night shows or something to entertain you while you wait, something to distract you and me while we wait. And I have a really small gas tank on both of our vehicles. It takes 3 minutes. And I'm usually surprised because it cuts off in the middle of whatever I'm watching, because the gas stops pumping and it's oh, you're done. I'm wait. And I just pull the thing off and I put it on the ground and I start pumping and I watch it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that at home or at the gas station. Please don't. But I don't have very much patience. I don't wait well. I don't really wait. I don't stop and wait. At least I try to distract myself away from that kind of waiting. But distracted waiting, I don't think, is really the worst kind of waiting, at least not in my book. This is just my opinion. Distracted waiting is not nearly as annoying as anxious waiting. Have you ever been around an anxious waiter, right? Not like somebody who serves you at the restaurant. That's kind of annoying too. But someone who doesn't wait well and they get really anxious about everything, I can't stand it. And, I tell people when they start hovering or pacing or whatever, sit down. You're making me nervous, right? You're making me anxious, and I don't like it. And that's kind of what it is. But growing up, there was always this expectation when we had company, and it was spoken through those words that I expect you to be on your best behavior, which was a warning. It was a kind of a warning shot that says, before you get in trouble, let me let you know that if you do get in trouble, you will be in trouble. And it'll be the kind of trouble that you don't want. And so there was this warning shot that don't make trouble, straighten up, be polite, smile, don't kick your sister, act nice, dress well, and keep clean. Right? That was kind of the overall, if I could just stay on all those, keep all of those things in line, then I would avoid that trouble. But there was this message of being on your best behavior. And we don't just hear it from our moms and dads, and not just in the spoken word, but we also hear it in the sung word around this time. That this is an expectation of being on our best behavior, right? You better not pout. What is it? You better not cry. Yeah, see? Better not pout. Right? Am I just butchering this? Y'all help me. Help me. What are the words? Sing it with me. You better not shout. Cry. Better not pout. I'm telling you now. Now I got it. Santa Claus is coming to town. Right? What an expectation, right? You better not do this because somebody's coming. Somebody's coming. And that somebody, he ain't just anybody. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake, and he knows if you've been bad or good. So be good, for goodness sake. Right? How creepy. But these messages are there that behave, be nice, be good, be polite, smile. Stop kicking your sister, Russell, right? But I don't think that's the kind of behavior that James or Jesus expect of us, expect of those who believe. I don't think that that's what James is saying, how we're supposed to wait patiently. It's not about being good, being nice, being pleasant, being polite. And Jesus isn't holding John the baptizer up as somebody who was good, pleasant, or kind, right? Remember last week, he called people names, right? You brood of vipers, right? And he was weird. He didn't dress up. He dressed weird. He ate weird things. And he was so honest that he got himself thrown in jail and eventually killed. And yet Jesus holds him up and saying, this is the one. This is one who truly gets it. And James, in our second reading, James mentions two different words that I think are important for the kind of waiting that you and I have to do both now and always. The two kinds of waiting, I think, as we think about leading these lives of Christianity, of following Jesus, and I think what the two words the way that we wait best is through suffering and through patience. Through suffering and through patience. And James mentions that was the way that the prophets waited. They suffered and they were patient. And also the other things they did, that they spoke the truth. They spoke the truth and they pointed people back to God. And they lived as God's servants, as God's messengers. They lived in that way. If you ever see artwork of John the Baptist or John the Baptizer, then there's one way, no matter most of the art that you'll see, there's one way of knowing who John is in the picture. Sometimes John's the only one, but there's usually a telltale sign of who John is in the picture. So we've got one picture to look at this morning. This is John. And the sign that you can tell who John is John is always gesturing or pointing. He's always pointing. And this one, I love this picture because his finger just seems to go on for days, right? It's just like, somebody get that boy piano lessons, right? Because he can tickle those ivories with those long fingers, right? But John is pointing, and he's pointing toward Christ. And he's pointing people, and sometimes it may not be just a single finger. It might be kind of like this, right? But this is what John does. He gestures. He draws your attention. I mean, just looking at that picture, you want to know what's out there, right? Because not only is he pointing, he's looking. He's looking where he's pointing, and he's saying, not here, but there. Look at that one. Look at him. John is seen, and Jesus tells us that John is the last of the prophets. And does he fit in James's way of identifying the prophets and the work? Does he suffer? We talked about that already, right? Yeah, he suffers. He gets thrown in jail, and eventually he dies. He's killed. Is he patient? He waits, and then he proclaims, and he points, and he even asks in our scripture reading today that Eddie read for us. In our scripture reading today, he asks, are you the one, or should we keep waiting? Should I keep waiting? John the baptizer may show us what it looks like to be on our best behavior, to be those who wait for God, not staring at the gas pump video, or distracting ourselves in some other way, but a way that we perhaps are on our best behavior as we wait is to be like John, to be those who are constantly saying, look, 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 right? We Christians, we say in the season that we are expecting a king. And the implied expectation is that this is a new ruler who is coming. This is a new person in charge. And if you've ever had a new boss, right? A new boss comes in, or a new leader of some sort, things change when leadership changes. When rulership changes, things change. Under a new ruler, things are going to be different. They're not the same. Change is coming. For us, what does it mean to be on our best behavior? Well, I don't think that it means dressing well, being nice, staying clean, and smiling. Because if that was the case, then John, the baptizer, he definitely failed, right? But instead, I think that you and I are supposed to behave as those who are expecting a new leader, one who's different, one who changes things, that we're expected to behave in a manner that is suitable for the coming company. When we would have Grandma and Grandpa come over to our house, I had to behave differently because Grandma and Grandpa expected different things than just the everyday. It was no longer acceptable for this, right? At least for this season, while they're here. Be on your best behavior. And you know what that means. I think the way that we are on our best behavior when we're waiting is by doing a simple thing. Act like he's already here. Act like he's already here. Because he is, and he will be, and he was, and he is. Look, point, serve. Next week we'll be talking about what is this gift that we have been given, that we are waiting to receive. And then in a few days after next Sunday, we'll gather together on Christmas Eve at 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and 11 o'clock in Todd Hall. The other two are in the sanctuary. And we will wonder once more, what is this gift? And say, my God, what have you done? What have you done? Let's pray.